Hi, I'm Dr. Brooke Silberhorn, the owner and chiropractor at Thrive Chiropractic in Ocala, Florida, and the founder of Faithful and Flourishing Fertility, a group designed to empower women in their health and fertility so that they and their families can thrive. When my youngest daughter, Ashlyn, was in kindergarten, we had an experience that really opened my eyes to the impact of chiropractic on brain health and function. About a month into her kindergarten year, it was like there was a switch that had been flipped. Ashlyn is the sweetest little girl. She's very smart, a little quiet, and all of a sudden we started having some pretty severe behavioral challenges with her. Every morning was a battle. Every bedtime was a battle. Socks and underwear bothered her. I think I went to about 4 stores trying to find different kinds of socks for her. When I would pick her up from the school bus stop, she would immediately get in the car, start kicking my seat, and screaming while she stripped down to her underwear, saying that she was hot. Tags bothered her, and I thought to myself, what has happened to my child? Thankfully, I have so many amazing people in my life, other chiropractors who have knowledge in different areas, and I'm able to learn from them. What I learned from my friend and colleague, Dr. Amy Spolstra, who practices in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, is really how the brain develops and what can happen when we have stressors in our life that disrupt the connection and communication between the body and the brain. Our brain is amazing, and it responds to our environment in amazing ways. I'm going to share with you today is how the brain develops, what can happen when we have stressors that prevent proper messages going to the brain, and then that can lead to behavioral challenges like I saw with my own daughter. I want to assure you that it is very possible. Your child is not just bad, that their brain is telling you a bigger story of what is going on. If you like what you hear in this video, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and leave in the comments what impacted you the most so that I can better serve you. When a baby is first born, the way that their nervous system processes information from the environment outside of them, and the environment inside of them is through primitive reflexes. These are ways that the nervous system quickly processes information and how the brain learns from the environment. If you remember going to the doctor and having them tap on your knee or on your elbow, and there's a little flinch of the muscle, that is a reflex. There are specific reflexes called primitive reflexes that the body uses for a brief period of time and then integrates as the brain grows and develops. As your child grows and develops and the brain learns more, eventually it moves from using primitive reflexes to using movement touch. So this is the next level of development of the brain. In movement touch, babies are learning to crawl, and they're touching everything. They're putting things in their mouth. They're exploring their environment through movement and through touch. The next level of development is called auditory verbal. Now, this doesn't mean that your child isn't talking until this level, but what it does mean is that not only can they talk and hear what you're saying, but they can understand it. They can respond in an appropriate manner. And finally, the last level of growth and development of the brain is visual cognition. Again, this is not that your child doesn't see until they get to this level. What this means is that When their brain is processing information, they can see something in their mind's eye. How I explain this to parents is that when a child is learning to read, letters are foreign symbols. So they can take those foreign squiggly marks on a page and understand that these specific squiggly marks make up a word, and those squiggly marks together make up a sentence, and they can read that sentence and understand what that sentence means and then explain to you what they think that it means. Visual cognition is so much more than being able to see. What can happen as your child grows and develops is that we experience stressors in our life. As a chiropractor, we call them the 3 T's: traumas, toxins, and thoughts, or physical, chemical, and emotional stress. When we experience stresses, that can cause a gap in this development. What that gap does, when we experience these stressors throughout the course of our life, that can cause what we as chiropractors call a subluxation. Subluxation is basically a big word that describes how our nervous system is being interfered with, and there's a disconnect between the body and the brain, and the brain and the body. That disconnect basically causes a gap in the growth and development of your child, and that gap can lead to basically a faulty foundation at various levels of brain growth and development. When we have subluxation, basically it alters the messages that go from the body, from the environment to the brain. And when those messages, bad messages, are going into the brain, all the brain can really do is respond. So bad messages in mean bad messages coming out. What happens when we have those subluxations that cause bad messages to go to the brain? Our child is going to respond in a certain way. So here's the kicker. This is what I saw with my daughter, Ashlyn. We sent her to kindergarten. She was a smart child. She had no issues. But when she got to kindergarten and she was being asked to do certain things that her brain wasn't actually ready for, her brain was stressed, and her behavior was really just a window into her brain. Kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 6th grade are times in a child's growth and development and education where we are sometimes asking them to do things that their brains are not ready for. They're higher stress points in their learning and education and growth and development. So I share with parents that these are times to really be watchful, to be mindful, to watch and wonder, what is going on with my child's behavior? Is this a window into the brain? Is my child's brain being stressed because they're just not there yet? It doesn't mean that they won't get there. It just means that maybe they're not there yet, and we need to support them more. We need to make sure that their nervous system is functioning optimally, getting them checked by a chiropractor. We need to make sure that we're giving them foods that support optimal brain function and aren't stressing them too much, like sugary foods. And we need to make sure that we aren't punishing them for simply saying that I'm stressed and I need your help. One of the things that I find in classrooms is that children will behave based on where their brain is most solid, if that makes sense. So depending on what level of this growth and development that you see on the chart here, depending on what level they're most strong at, is how they will behave. When we send them to kindergarten and we expect them to be at the visual cognition level of development, but they have some gaps and are deflecting in their behavior, these children will sometimes be really loud and talk all the time because they're in that auditory verbal stage of development. So they're not being disruptive, They're just using the best tools that they have for learning. Other children may be all the way down in the movement touch part of brain development. So we're sending them to kindergarten, expecting them to read, but they're not there yet. And so they're touching things, they're touching other kids, they're moving around constantly, probably being disruptive in a classroom setting. But that is, again, a window into their brain to say they're just not there yet, and they need some additional help to get their nervous system moving in the right direction. Here's a quick recap of these levels of brain development and things that you can watch for with your children as they grow and develop. The first level of development is primitive reflexes. As these integrate while into the nervous system, as the brain learns and grows, we then move into movement touch, where babies are rolling over, crawling, learning to walk, putting things in their mouth, touching everything. The next level of development is auditory verbal, where they're talking to you, they're starting to understand, they're stringing sentences together. And finally, visual cognition is where they're able to understand what you're saying, picture things in their mind's eye, and able to read and understand what those words actually mean. Many times when children aren't quite there yet in the visual cognition stage of development, parents will sometimes get frustrated with their children because they aren't doing what they tell them to do. Now, visual cognition is also where children are able to do multiple steps of directions because they're able to visualize all of the things that they're being asked to do. So many times, children won't be able to do multiple steps. Here's an example. You ask your child to brush their teeth, put on their socks and shoes, grab their backpack, and go get in the car. If a child is unable to do multiple steps, they'll forget one of those things, or two, or three, or not do any of them, because what you have asked them to do is actually stressing their brain too much. My suggestion to parents is to do one step. Once they do that, then do the next step, and so on, until their brain starts to get to that level where they're able to do multiple steps at a time. I hope that this video has been very valuable for you, and I want to encourage you. As your child grows and develops, you may see behaviors that you don't like, but that doesn't mean that they are being naughty. It simply means that you should watch and wonder, ask yourself, what am I seeing right now? What is going on with my child? And just know that your child's behavior is a window into their brain, and your child is amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you with more information to help you and your family thrive.